This is a harm reduction video. The following conversation is a personal account of self-medication. We do not encourage illegal substance use. Please contact your GP or medical professional for advice from this video.
Hi everyone and welcome. My name is Dr. Alana Roy, sign name Lani, and I'm really excited to be here today to talk about psychedelics. A little bit about me and my background. I'm a social worker and a psychologist and a therapist. I'm really passionate about the deaf and deafblind community. I've worked at Able Australia a long time ago and Deaf Children Australia. And I have a private psychology business called The Signs of Life Psychology. Today we're going to talk about psychedelics because there's been lots of new policy and information occurring for mental health. Over to you, Luke.
Hi there, thanks for the introduction. My name is Luke and this is my sign name. I'm profoundly deaf and I'm originally from Sydney, but I've lived in Melbourne for quite a while now. I'm a visual artist and that means that I get involved in all corners of the art world, like art tours, artist talks and consultation. I love talking about art and sharing the things that I know. It's a real passion of mine. Teaching art feels like a huge part of my life, and it's a big part of why I'm here in Melbourne.
I'm really interested in your experience about psychedelics, if that's okay. But remember, we're not telling deaf and deafblind community just to go out and just take psychedelics. No, we need to be careful. We need to look at the risks and be prepared. There's new information and research about psychedelics, and that's wonderful. We can look at our mental health. I'm interested in your experience.
Sure, I'd love to share my experiences, both good and bad. Perhaps I'll start with the positives. I've tried a number of different psychedelic substances, and when I take them, I guess I feel a deep connection with my body. I can feel like my mind and my body are really in sync. There's a feeling of freedom. Sometimes there's a quietness that comes over me. Or sometimes my mind takes me on a journey through different experiences I've had. And sometimes these journeys illuminate blockages that I realize I've been carrying with me from my past. It's really interesting to think about them.
Did you do mushrooms?
Yeah, I certainly have had mushrooms. Yeah, I've eaten them before. You can eat them either as the whole mushroom itself, or they can be ground into a powder and kept in a cap. I guess I have had them a bit in my time, and the flavour itself, it's really unique. It has this kind of earthy or almost dirty quality to it. There's something about it that I love.
The experience you loved, but you didn't like the taste?
Yeah, I love it. I can't say why, but I absolutely love it. You know, when you make a mushroom tea, it becomes kind of soft and warm, and when I drink it, I can feel it absorbing into me and connecting me with my mind. I feel liberated. If I'm stressed or frustrated with life, its structures and its rules, the mushrooms, they can release me from that and I can relax. The pressures of life slip away.
Was it scary for you?
No, it's not scary. Ideally, you're with some friends in a safe space.
You trusted.
Trust is important and you need to feel comfortable. Like being safe and warm in a womb, not running around in the bustling world.
Did you do it in a natural environment?
Well, I've been camping a few times or gone for walks in the forest. Yeah, I felt relaxed in nature. Ideally for me, it's the right house with the right energy, good people, not a big crowd, maybe 2 or 3 others. I think that's enough. That way you can create a shared experience.
Do you remember why you took mushrooms? Was it for your mental health? Was it for spirituality? Why were you interested in mushrooms?
Well, that's interesting because I never really sought mushrooms out specifically in relation to my mental health. I just connected with them naturally. But after taking them a few times, a lot of the big things in my mind, they seem to resolve themselves. I feel closer to where I want to be now. Now I can see how these experiences have influenced my mental health and my body, and I've enjoyed the journey.
You realised how important psilocybin was for your mental health. Did you realise that at the time?
Well, I realised what it meant to be happy and to laugh a lot. To experience these vibrant colours and the sensation of my heart connecting to the vibrations. Yeah, I felt open and my mind felt free.
Did you continue to stay open after the mushrooms? Or was that it? Did life improve? Was it an important experience for your mental health, for spirituality? Did it continue?
Well, that's interesting because I grew up in a very religious setting. There was a strong sense of control. Then when I moved to Melbourne, I left that behind and reached middle age. Later on, when I took mushrooms, I think I connected with something spiritual. I connected with the earth and with the universe, and yeah, I guess that has stayed with me.
What were your relationships like with those friends that you took the psilocybin with? Was it special or different?
Well, what I've noticed is that it's actually quite hard to connect with people who don't have the same shared experiences as you. With others who have, there's a vulnerability.
It was a special experience.
There's a vulnerability, and with that comes connection.
You were able to express yourself.
Express yourself, yeah. It's not so much a feeling of being emotional, I'd say more of an awareness and an openness. That means that after the trip, I feel like I have a greater ability to know what I feel and to be able to express myself. If your mind is all over the place, then that's not awareness. You can't connect in a state like that.
There was a connection. They understood. They got it. Have you tried MDMA?
Yeah, at times through my life, mostly in the last 10 or 8 years, I'd say. And MDMA is very different from mushrooms. It's more in the body. It's more...
It's a loving feeling. It's warm feelings.
Yeah, I'd say you laugh a lot. It's more fuzzy. Your senses are heightened, especially the first time.
It can be easy to communicate, to express yourself.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you're really in the moment. 3 or 4 hours could just go by without you even noticing. And the morning comes around and you're still full of energy, like you can keep going and not stop until you finally wear yourself out.
We know now that MDMA research is helping people with trauma, with PTSD. People often feel safer to express themselves. Normally they're closed and the trauma's all locked up inside. When they take MDMA, it can open them up. And their trauma, they let it out, and that's really important. It's very different than psilocybin. Psilocybin's more spiritual and existential, more visual. Both are helpful. Psilocybin research showing help for depression. People might be feeling disconnected, depressed, and they open themselves up to the world. Psilocybin can really show them other perspectives and hope, other worlds even. It can be really special.
Yeah, I agree. I know a few people with PTSD or with complex PTSD, or really with any kind of complex trauma from their past. When they take MDMA or mushrooms, I can see that they just unwind. You can really connect with some of those deeper family issues.
Did you feel like you knew there was more?
Yeah, their minds are running around in the same old circles, reliving their trauma. I think that these substances allow people to open up about sensitive topics that sometimes might be too confronting to talk about at other times. Or they can engage in these topics with really strong new insights.
It can be really strong.
Yeah, you can go really deep.
And people can not be ready.
Yeah, definitely.
Maybe it's a good time to talk about risks. Harm reduction. How do you feel about alcohol, your experience?
Yeah, in my experience, if you drink alcohol with some of these drugs, it can bring on a well, it's a very different experience. If you're drinking with, say, MDMA or mushrooms, for example, it can really pull you down and be quite intense. It can be very overwhelming. I think it's important to keep them separate. You need to have time to adjust, time to relax, and to connect. With alcohol thrown into the mix, it's like the whole thing's on turbocharge. There's just too much going on and it can get pretty heavy. You can black out.
It's important for people to know the difference. MDMA in the research trials and psilocybin in the research, there's no alcohol involved. It's pure, and that's it. There's good research building on those settings. Alcohol can be risky. The body and the mind, you've got to be careful. You get really sick and disorientated. It can be really strong when you mix them.
That's right. It mixes with your stomach acid and you can feel the reflux. You can feel pretty crook and even throw up. It's better to choose one or the other.
It's a balance. You've got to be careful.
I agree. And actually, I wanted to add something while we're talking about alcohol. In my experience, if I'm drinking and I've taken MDMA, I can just drink like a fish and it'll have no noticeable effect. I'm completely oblivious to the harm that I'm actually causing to my body, like to my kidneys and the terrible hangover the next day. Your mind feels really weak, and that's because there's just too many things in your system. Like you said, pure and kept separate.
It's a balance. You can have a couple of drinks for some people, and that's okay. But the more and more people drink, they get really sick, and you've got to be careful with psychedelics and alcohol.
And while we're on risk, I should mention something with mushrooms. Sometimes people don't realize how potent they actually are. They might think that they're not working, so they go ahead and eat too much too soon, but even a small amount can be pretty strong. You need to be patient. They won't take full effect for between 30 minutes to an hour, so patience is really important.
Do you have any other tips for harm reduction for the deaf-blind community, for scams, anything else?
Well, I think what I see in the deaf community is there's a range of mental health issues, like depression, and people don't always know who to talk to. They might try and purchase some of these substances themselves through Instagram or online, but there's plenty of scams out there. You really can't know what some of these drugs are made of, and they could be fake or they could be cut with something. They may never even come in the mail, and you can waste a lot of money. Even if you do get something, it can have a pretty bad effect on your heart or even your life if you don't know where it's from. Better to buy from a trusted source or from a professional who's prescribed them for you.
It's exciting now. It's in the middle of the year, the government has decided that you can have MDMA and psilocybin with a psychiatrist. It's approved. But people probably haven't thought about the deaf community, the policies. It's largely hearing people who are going to apply. I'm excited to advocate for research, to talk about the deaf community. Why? Because the deaf community have depression, PTSD. We all have. I'm excited. It's exciting times to see what will happen. We've got to reduce harm because it is rescheduled from the middle of the year. And deaf people can ask their psychiatrist for information. And I'm excited for the deaf community.
I think that's great. If deaf people out there are struggling and want to talk to someone, ask questions or know more about the research, they should talk to someone that they're comfortable with, or reach out to somebody like you, Lani.
People can email me, Signs of Life on the internet. You can look me up. My number's there. There's lots of information. You can email and I'm happy to text and talk to you about your application. If you don't have a diagnosis, that's okay. We can talk. It's about reducing harm. It's really important that you don't get scared and that you know that it's okay to talk and have these conversations with a psychologist. We should reduce harm together and be open. So let's talk about your experience. It's important with MDMA and other psychedelics that we can talk. we can educate and we can keep people safe.
Right. Really talk things through.
Some people are really worried. For example, mushrooms and MDMA soon will be rescheduled, will be more legalised. But other psychedelics such as LSD, are they legal? No. And deaf people need to feel comfortable and supported to have the right choices and options for mental health, to reduce harm together, keep safe.
Right, scams can be so easy to fall for, and you have to be really careful. Best to book an interpreter and talk with a GP to really clarify things. Then get in touch with someone like yourself, a professional, through an interpreter. It's a great idea to speak with a GP about getting a mental health care plan and a referral to a psychiatrist, psychologist, or any other professionals like yourself.
We can talk, you can get an assessment.
Right.
But you need an assessment, and it's important we reduce harm.
So you can use the test to check the authenticity.
Oh yes, people can get support for that, to test their drugs. They can be linked with harm reduction organisations, get a referral, get support. It's really important to reduce harm. Don't just take anything. You don't know what's in it. You could get sick, your mental health could, break down. It's important you feel comfortable and can talk and ask for support about the substance.
So where can you buy the testing kits from?
There's different harm reduction organisations. Sometimes it's expensive to get these tests, but we hope, Australia soon the government will get on board to cover the funding for this, and they'll change their mind. Why? We need that. Free options at festivals so people know what they're taking, they have access to assess their substances. They know that they're safe. Other countries around the world have it. Australia, slowly improving soon, I hope, if we keep advocating.
Well, we know that there are cases out there where people have blacked out or even died because they don't know what they're taking. If we had testing kits available, then people would be able to check the drug's quality and it would stop people selling bad products.
Yeah, we need to prevent. We need to keep improving.
And it would lessen the likelihood of people getting ripped off too. People would be able to test and trust what they're buying. We could ask questions about what's in the drug rather than just buying anything that's available and be more discerning.
Before we finish today, I'd really love to explain, my experience. I have a love for psychedelics. Why? It's about 6 years ago, I was going through a really difficult time with my mental health. I've been a trauma therapist for 15 years, with children, with women, with men, of all different people who've been abused. And I absorbed all of that trauma, and it really hurt. And one day, my mental health just went downhill. I felt very scared, depressed and worried. And I was looking for help, and I tried everything and nothing really helped me. I got more and more depressed and scared and worried. It was terrible. But I visited Peru. I flew all the way there by myself. And I was scared, to be honest. But I went there. I went into the jungle in Peru and I drank ayahuasca. And it opened up my mind. And I'm different now. My mental health, my spirituality got so much stronger. I'm hopeful. I've continued my work in the field of abuse. And I'm okay. I feel like the world is okay. Yes, there's children that get abused and there's terrible things that happen, but my experiences over there helped me to open up and develop this strength 6 years ago. So now I advocate. I'm pretty passionate about psychedelic research, all the different ones. Ayahuasca is my favourite, and it's special, my spirituality. Thank you. Thank you for helping me with the deaf community and educating them and advocating for research.
It's been such a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you.